Good evening, friends. It's the, it's a Friday night, right? And by Friday evening, quintessentially, we think of parties, entertainment, having a drink with our friends, maybe going for a drive. But the COVID has changed a lot of that reality. This show, Status Single with Shree, was born out of the COVID. I hate saying it this way, but it was born out of the crying need in my community, Status Single, which is India's first and only community for urban single women, to create a space where women can feel safe, where they can have conversations, they can share their concerns, they can post inquiries about, legal help or medical help, or, single mothers reaching out to us for, guidance on school admissions, and generally women sharing their stories, owning their lives, and breaking their silence. I'm so happy that it was during this lockdown, when I faced a grave personal crisis, that I was able to start a show which hopefully has inspired many of not just my community members, but men and women from all over India. Today, I have with me as a guest a young lady from the city of my birth. Actually, I feel very fun saying this, that Shomita actually lives in my area. I stay in South Kolkata, and my next guest, Shomita Basu, who's the CEO and founder of Zainika Fashions, also stays right, in my neighborhood. So we are Pada pals, like they say, we are from the same neighborhood. Shomita's story is incredible. Shomita's story is absolutely mind blowingly powerful because at the age of 30, when most women settle down in India, have children, Shomita faced a grave life challenge. An autoimmune disorder robbed her of her mobility. Not one to give up, and a fighter. And coming from a family of resilient fighters supported by Shomita's sister and her wonderful parents, her father, we learned later, happens to also know mine through work. So it's great that the families are connected, two families of proud single women. I feel so good about that. Shomita decided that she's not going to let her lack of mobility or the challenges that she faced physically bog her down. Starting from using her challenge to talk about women like her, to mainstream disability in India, to mainstream women with disability in India, and then people with disability in India. Shomita also soon founded a wonderful clothing brand called Zainika, which aimed to do what she missed, after she suffered this autoimmune disorder attack, if I may say so, that she could not wear the clothes that she wanted and dress up and just be herself. Zainika hopes to cross that threshold. It hopes to create a line of clothing which is truly inclusive. And I find it such a proud moment. In fact, I was just telling her that I think, a show like this is finally starting to take its toll on me. And I mean this as a compliment to my wonderful guests, because I've just, today when I saw her father, setting up her laptop, that's what my mom and dad also do for me, especially my dad. I got so emotional. It takes a tribe to not just raise a child, but it takes a society and a family and a tribe to support a single woman to lead her life with dignity. I have said this time and again that, whether you have a single sister, whether you have a single daughter, whether you have a single aunt who's unmarried, a widowed mother, look at them with respect. Our identity is not always vis-a-vis having got a man, lost a man, or never having found a man. There is more to us and more to our whole community. We are 74.1 million women right now in India. And what a proud moment it is for me to, in a way, be, feel like a proud matriarch, that look at my children, look at this sea of people that we have. And if you looked at single women only, like single women of a certain age, or single woman of a certain kind, like Shree, never been married, lives with her parents, self-employed, or a woman with a physical challenge as single, a divorced woman. It takes all kinds to make status single as beautiful and strong as we are now. Welcome, Shomita. I hope to see you on the screen.
So happy to be here. So
Thank
happy.
you. I share in your joy. I share in your honor, I share in your life, and I thank you for being a community member of Status Single and for helping us as a community to become more inclusive, to become kinder, to become stronger because we have you sisters giving us the boost and the power and the inspiration. So I thank you, Shomita. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you so much. And I think it's great that, I have seen the community members, they're so open to hearing each other, no matter how very different the perspectives may be. And I mean, that's the whole point, right? The idea is not to have any one perspective.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. 39% of the female population can't be, colored with one paintbrush. Each of us are different. Each of us are unique. Our journey to where we are now is unique, is special, has been checkered, has been filled with adversity, some of us more privileged than the other. But, each of us own our story. And that is why, as you know, we are running a campaign in the community also called Not Unlucky. It's the Not
Yes.
Unlucky series, where we are saying that, this whole heteronormative hard sell of Valentine's Day, couplehood, romance, spa discounts, meal, restaurant pe ho raha hai, the red balloons, the Calcutta Times or the Bombay Times doing stories of famous celebrity couples. We are smashing that stereotype. And we are talking about self worth. We are talking about self love. And we are talking about sharing our scars and our story so that if you are single like us on Valentine's Day, you don't feel you're unlucky because your marriage broke up or because you faced a physical challenge or you have young children and you're a solo breadwinner and you're stretched or you're a primary caregiver or you're 43 like me and you've never had a husband, or you're a widow who lost her spouse and now her children live away and you're all by yourself. We are together, the world, my world, our world. So, Shomita, give us a glimpse into your world. Tell us about how diabolically and suddenly, in a sense, your life changed. Tell us a little about your growing up because I know you're supported by a wonderful family. And like they say, when a child is born, that it takes a tribe, it takes a village to raise a child. So in the same way, I feel that if a single woman is today strong, I love to see families which are the cheerleaders, like my mom and dad, Geru, they are my blind side, like your family is your blind side. So take us through your journey.
Well, I wouldn't even know where to start, right? But I think it takes a village to raise a child, and I don't know what it takes to raise someone like me because I was quite a handful. I was told that I am still being told that, I was a very quiet child, but I was constantly questioning things. So it's not like I was making them run around. I was just making them answer like a lot of stuff. And that probably was not easy, but I think that is also where I think that was a foundation of becoming a resilient person because they never stopped me from asking those questions. They never said, "Oh my God, why are you asking so many questions?" They always either gave me answers or tried to find it with me or just said, "I don't know." That also happened, but it was never like, "Why are you asking the question?" So that was never discouraged. And through those questions only, there were so many stereotypes while growing up when I found the gender stuff going on, right? Like, um, this thing about periods and worship, going to temples.
Mm.
So I remember because Saraswati Puja is coming up in like
Yeah,
next few
on
days. I
Tuesday.
remember the
Yeah.
story. Uh, I think that was either my very first. No, it possibly was not my first cycle, but anyways, it was pretty early on, and then it was my Saraswati Puja, and you know how it is. It's more than pujo for kids. It's the day. It's celebration. It's everything. And so my mom said, if you're having a period, you're not supposed to whatever like be engaged in it. I'm like, why not? Like you can't do that to me. I mean, it's bad enough that I'm bleeding, and then this. And she said, I don't know. I said, but why are you asking me to do something that you don't know? And by that time, I was fairly upset about this whole situation. So She said, "You know what? I actually never asked my mom why, so I don't know why, but this is how it is."
Mm,
And I said, "Look, I'm very upset about this." She said, "Okay, I mean, if you don't want to follow it, you don't follow it." But I could see that she was very upset about it because it was really ingrained in her belief system. So I
mm,
decided, okay, fine, I'll not do it. But what I also did was I started telling everyone why I am not a part of this. And my mom was like, "Why are you just going ahead and, like making this a radio show?" I said, "Because this needs to be known. I mean, otherwise, what excuse do I give for not being part? I mean,
mm,
what is going on here?" So the
mm,
idea of being silent about your periods, the idea of not making it a part of your regular life, or having the taboo of it is not being sacred, all of that started getting, there's just one episode, one instant, one sentence, but everything started getting squashed. And because we also think of books as something sacred, so I said,
mm.
okay, fine. So every month for a few days, I'm not going to touch my books. No studies, no exams. Sorry, not happening.
I hope Geru is not listening to this. Geru, my sister, if she listens to this, that's it.
So no, then my mom said, okay, fine, you do whatever you want. And so even till date, she's very clear that I can do whatever I want. I can go
Mm,
to a temple with it. And over time, I think I wouldn't say her belief system has changed, but she has also learned to question. I think that's something I really appreciate in both my parents, but particularly my mom. She has like she's evolved as a feminist, as we both, started searching more questions together.
mm, mm. I like the way you gave the Saraswati Pujo reference because in my myriad criticisms about how Hinduism has changed from what I believe is one of the most beautiful and one of the oldest religions into the world, it's degenerated into this tool to impose patriarchy and misogyny on women, which is very sad because I've read the Gita. My father, when he lost his mother in December, found solace in the Gita. So through his eyes, I've been listening, or through his words, I've been listening to the Gita all over again. And I think there is so much of wisdom in our ancient scriptures. Before it came down to male priests to interpret that for us. And today, as you know, on the blog, we have shared this fantastic story done by a community member on this mother and daughter female priests in Kolkata who are actually smashing patriarchy because they are performing marriages where the bride can be menstruating, her sister can be menstruating, no kanyadan, no throwing that rice behind the
Yeah.
pitriri, nothing of that sort, because the scriptures don't say this. This is
Yeah.
just making marriage a tool of patriarchy, an institution of bondage and
Yeah.
identity theft for women. I want to come because we are talking, when you spoke about how when you got your periods, in a sense, you were out of, you it was like a Lakshman Rekha drawn around a woman's body. I feel that way, about our periods. Bring us to the time when you were detected with your autoimmune disorder and how it changed your life. Because, see, I was just thinking to myself that I had an accident when I was 24, and my left knee, the patella, was dislocated. So because I was so young, the doctor didn't go in for a knee replacement. He should have done it. He was a conservative, sweet fellow who probably thought, oh my God, she's only 24. But my knee is damaged. I've had 3 accidents on my left leg because it's a weak leg. So from time to time, I am rendered immobile, you know. And to think that someday that can happen and it can be a long term repercussion. I don't think we even have any idea what a person or the family goes through when something like this descends upon them, without even a knock at the door. So tell us about that moment in your life, because also Shomita, autoimmune disorder, because I suffer from fibromyalgia, is a very very less spoken about topic or medical condition. Especially women having autoimmune disorders, we haven't really created enough noise about it. So take us to that very painful probably or challenging moment in your life.
So I think that's the biggest challenge because it's not a moment.
Yeah.
And as autoimmune disorders happen to be, it's a regressive disorder. And I was in my late 20s when I started. It was basically started with pain. So it was painful. I went to doctors. They didn't know what to do. So it took like 3 years for me to get diagnosed of what is wrong. 3 years, I think, 3 cities, 2 countries. That's how widespread the whole search. No, 5 cities, 2 countries. So one also has to understand that the modern medicine does not understand autoimmune disorders.
Mm,
It's a very blanket statement given to a wide range of problems.
mm,
And almost every problem is given the same kind of treatment, also.
mm,
And I think if I get into the topic called the ego of medical science, it will be a never ending chat. So, but very few doctors are willing to be that accepting of their limitations and say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes for the patient to get better. Instead
mm,
of saying that I will just follow protocol and see if you can fit in somewhere.
mm,
And the problem with me is that I generally never quite fit in. That has just been the, I don't know, I think that's been the theme of my life. I'm not regretting it at all,
yes.
because why fit in? What's the
Why fit?
point?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if I struggle to fit in, I'm also in a way imposing, forcing somebody else to do the same, because I don't think you can give somebody that you don't have. So if I don't have the space to be, how can I even allow somebody else the same thing?
Mm,
So fitting in was never quite the thing. And I was very observant. So I think my experience as a researcher came very handy. I was trying to observe what was happening in my body, and I was trying to tell the doctors, and I could see some of them were not really noting it. And I was like, you guys must be really crazy. I'm giving you so much data right here, right? And like, you're not looking at it. But I started figuring out doctors who were observant and who was trying to say, okay, if this is a problem, how to do it. But all of that is the medical stuff. I started reading a lot about it. I started reading a lot about from different systems, like the Chinese system, what's happening in Latin America, Indian Ayurveda, yoga. And at one point, I just said, you know what? Let the doctors do what they know best. But it's my body, it's my life. More than the body part, it's my life. And I just have to take charge.
mm, mm.
So I'm not going to stop them from doing anything. Let them handle. I'm not a doctor, so let them handle the medical part.
So,
But at the end of
Shomika, I'm going to just take a minute and ask you to tell us a little bit because I haven't said what is the autoimmune disorder you have. I
hmm,
wanted you to tell us that, so that it's
I
all
will,
accurate.
yeah, yeah, I'll come to that too. So it it came to a point where I decided of how to live my life. If I have to cut out on food, let me do that. I didn't let out doctors say. So I started doing a lot of breathing, a lot of food calculations, a lot of uh, what is today called mindful thinking. I didn't know that word when I was doing it. It's, sitting calm. What I realized was that breathing was the best painkiller. And the reason I still haven't come to the part where I can tell you the name of the thing is that at this point also nobody had a clue of what's wrong with me.
Mm,
And I remember I was in a foreign country at that time. I was studying in the Netherlands. The doctors were just saying, we know that you have autoimmune disorder. We don't know what it is. And you probably are going to die. I'm like, that part we all know. It's true for rest of the world. If you can
yeah,
give me more specifics, that can be helpful. So
absolutely.
finally, after all of that, and it was very troubling because I don't know what is wrong. People are saying I'm going to die. I'm in a cold. So I think finally I said, can I at least not die in a cold country? Can I just go back to where I'm from?
Yeah,
And I did that. I just didn't. I mean, for me, it was all about. No, I don't want to die in snow. Like I don't know. That was it. And I was kind of fairly confident that I'm not dying. But it changed. That is the point which changed my life, Purely, because I that kind of made me think, if I'm to die today, what is important? The PhD and the whatever, the next goal and the job or whatever, even putting me as a secretary of UN at that point probably wouldn't matter. So once that really shook me up. So even now, when I'm just doing a lot of things, and there are nights before I go to sleep, I say, if this is it, what is it that I want to do? And that paradigm shift, I think, it was very useful for me. I started paying more attention to people. I started paying more attention to myself. We always forget that one person here, you know. So finally, after that, when I returned, I got diagnosed with something called a psoriatic arthritis.
Okay.
And that created so much confusion because people are used to thinking arthritis, okay, old people, and then okay, arthritis and rheumatic arthritis, and then okay, it should show in the blood, and then oh, psoriatic arthritis should show in the skin, you should have some skin problem. I didn't. So anyway, so uh, not only do I not fit in, my diseases and illnesses also don't fit in. No normal narrative happening there. So they figured it out through some very specific, clinical watch out and stuff like that. But what was difficult and what very few doctors understood is that uh, it's a sense of loss. Like you suddenly are so used to doing something. And I mean, for me, it was, oh my God, it was so difficult. I remember there was this one morning when I broke down completely. This was still back in the Netherlands. The night before, I was in the kitchen, I was doing my stuff. I had put, the whatever, like the sugar and the salt back in the racks. The next day morning, when I go and I try to get it, I can't. I can't reach the same rack I had used the night before. So it's not just a sense of loss that happens once and you deal with it. You almost cannot grieve out of it, because by the time you're okay, something else happens. And by the time you're like settled and like, okay, this is what. So after all these years, you would think I know how to deal with, not having a certain body. As of last Saturday, I stopped having my right hand stopped functioning. It's just not working. It's not moving. It's not doing anything. So a lot of the work that I was doing was centered around it, obviously, I think. And then suddenly comes Saturday, I'm like, oh my God, like now what? Um, in fact, a lot of some of the people I've said this to, they said, how are you saying this so calmly? I said, at this moment, my energies are just trying to figure out how to handle it. I think at some point I'll just probably, break down or not. I don't know. I mean, I haven't figured that out yet. But at this moment, I'm just trying to figure how to. We have to make a living. All these doctor stories that I'm telling you comes because I have been able to pay them. The medicines have to continue. If they don't, it's going to be worse. So how does that one? And I was doing all of that with the help of this hand. So I have to figure out what to do. So I am still in the process of figuring out, but yeah, I have not stopped working. It's continuing, and somehow I think what has happened over the course of the last few years is that I have stopped trying to understand everything beforehand and trying to find an answer. I realize that I am strong enough, and I have a faith in that. I have stopped having faith in my hand and my eyes, because there was a time when even my eyes were going blind, and then we somehow recovered that. So there were like lots of these stories. So over time I realized that it's not about my eyes, it's not even about my body, any part of it. It's about me. So as long as I'm confident of me, whatever happens, we will work it out. And this me, as you have very rightly said at the very beginning, is not just me alone, right? It's my family, it's my friends, it's the fact that if I am not doing okay, there will be people who will very understandably so not try to find a solution. They will just try to be there.
support you.
Yes.
Hmm.
And this is something a lot of people, I think, don't quite understand, that you don't have to find a solution. I mean, we are not expecting that as a matter of support. Supporting means just be there. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to laugh, laugh. If you want to whatever, talk about heartbreaks and food or whatever, do that. Just the onus of finding a solution. I'm not a problem. So you don't have to find a solution. You just have to be with me.
Hmm. As we are, and as you are for us, always remember that, you know.
Absolutely.
Shomita, because you mentioned the financial difficulties, I want to highlight this because, you know, what a lot of people don't understand is that when a child is terminally ill, right,
Yeah.
or when a child is suddenly diagnosed with a disease that, you know, creates a handicap like losing eyesight, or spinal deformation or an accident that happens, it is a trauma for the full family.
Yes.
And I am putting this on the table because there are more women with disability in our community. I want more women with disability who are single to find us and join us and empower us. Okay. And the other reason I'm saying this is because, I think because of that and the amount of physical and emotional caregiving that is
Yes.
required of a child like this, there's also that lens of pity, through
Yes.
which a woman is looked at, that like I get it, so I can imagine the amount you get, that acha, what will happen to you after your parents, you
All the
know
time.
uh, yeah, you have a sister, right? You have a sister. But sometimes there are women with disability who are the only child or only daughter like me, right? And in my case, my mother is an only daughter also. I don't have any mamas and all
Cousin.
of that. Not that having a own mama will mean some great thing, but I'm just saying she has wonderful brothers and sisters who are cousins. But there's nijer, that thing we keep hearing, apna, you know that is not there. So I always want to talk about caregiving because again it's an unrequited thankless profession, right? So next time I'm going to do a show, and I've decided this and I'm saying it publicly. I want to talk to families of single women, all sorts of single women, so grandparents, aunts, neighbors, our tribe. I want to showcase that to the world. But tell me about your father, tell me about your mother, tell me about your sister, because recently also you went through a crisis when your
Yes.
parents were tested COVID positive and we were talking. And I could sense that anxiety, and I have the same thing. It's not because you have an autoimmune disorder, it's more, and I don't have it. I also have it. My biggest fear is life after my parents. And I'm not just talking about loneliness. I'm alone. I'm a loner in some way in my head. I'm detached, but just this home, them, the love, the care, the support, them having my back. you know Tell us about that, how you have seen your parents on this journey with you.
I think it has been far more difficult on them.
For them, yeah.
All the three of them, my sister and my parents, but much more on my parents. I think my sister is just about like 5% behind it or something. But definitely, I think they have aged, raced at it. And my sister included. There's a standing joke between me and my sister. She's like, "You're the one who fell sick, and you're the one with like not even one gray hair, and I am the one." And she's younger to me, so she's like, "I'm the one with a fountain of gray hair now." It's very difficult because I think that the one thing that I have understood, and I always say this, that in fact, this. I think we have spoken about it. It's been a dream to create a community for the peer support for caregivers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where caregivers can come and without any judgment say, I'm tired of taking care.
I'm tired.
And that is so necessary, That is so true, and I think it is so important to acknowledge that it's tiring. Come on, you're feeding somebody. I mean, imagine you having a child who is 2 years old, and that person never grows up. For and we have glorified the whole idea of parenthood. We have glorified motherhood, and I do think they are very great relationships. And those who are good at it, they're really. I mean, I would say wonderful, probably some of the best things that one can do, but they are still human, and we have somehow taken that off when we talk about motherhood. Like, she's just the baby out there, she's just the god out there,
Yeah,
and
the
she
Dashi Puja with 10 hands.
with the 10
Like,
hands. And she is, I mean, for me, she is my god, but she's also the human being who needs to sleep, who needs to eat, who needs to rest, who needs to have a cup of coffee and go out a little bit, take a little bit of fresh air. So that, first and foremost, we never give that chance, even when, we are young children. And then if she's playing the role even as an adult, then she's at the end of the still. So I have very often forced my mom, and I said, if you don't get out of this house right now, find whoever you want. For 4 hours, I don't want to see you.
hmm,
And she's like, I don't know what to do anymore. I said, that's what. You have to find that something. And what I've also realized is if I mean, of course, I cannot be generalized as the one person with disability, so everybody is the same. I guess not. But since I know my limitations, and in my head, I'm like, okay, can I do that? For my parents, they can't take the decision on my behalf, right? So they are
hmm,
again one step shorter, and they are wondering what. They're wondering how. And I think it's because I have, so there was a time when I was flat in bed for months together, more than a year. Um, Only my eyes were moving. And when I was resting my hand on the bed, only my fingers would go like this. So from that position to having recovered to wherever I have, and thanks to the pandemic, I have also gone down the spiral a little bit, trying to come up again. So this is a continuous journey, and it is emotionally. It takes it off. I mean, there was a time when I just said, Can I just not talk to any doctor for like 3 months? I don't want them. I don't want to discuss my body. I don't want to discuss effects and side effects and God knows what all. I just don't want that. And wishful thinking, but yeah, that's what I had asked for. Uh, Now they are also doing the same with me. They're also wondering what to do. And at least I can, if something is affecting me poorly, I can feel that. But they have to ask me, are you okay? How is today morning?
hmm,
After having this medicine for 6 days, now how are you feeling? And sometimes, honestly, I don't have words to express it. I have not been able to uh, formulate the narrative to, say it aloud. So I have something inside me, I'm with it, but they are not connected with it. So it's very tough. And then what happens is that they are hoping still that I'm going to get better, and amen to that. But I have been also telling them that, hey, if something gets better, we are not going to complain, right? But can we be prepared for it to not get better? Will it be that bad? I think logically, and I have seen their words change. First it was all about, can she just be running and all that. Now it's more like, can she at least get to a point when she's not dependent for her everyday activities, for the eating and the sleeping and everything. So it's changing, I can see that. So there is an acceptance, but it's very difficult to accept it, especially when I'm otherwise so active. Like,
hmm,
I've literally started an organization from my bed.
hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I remember once someone asked me, about status single, and they said, Shri, where do you do these shows from? I said, my bedroom. So I said, my bedroom there. He says, आप किताब कहाँ पे लिखते हो? You must be going to some faraway mountain. I said, my bedroom. I don't have money to go to faraway mountains. All that you only idealize about writers who are dead, or foreigners, or I don't know, really rich people's children. Everything is here in this bedroom for me. So where do you work out, Shri? You work out so much. Where do you work out? Bedroom? Here? you know
Bedroom.
so actually this is
Everything, all secrets.
yeah, actually this kind of a studio apartment that my parents have very generously allowed me to live, and it's my home too. This is my world. I do everything here. I mean, well, not everything, but everything. If you
Right.
know what I mean. But I'm kidding. So definitely there's support needed for caregivers. There's counseling needed for caregivers.
Yes.
I've been
Just
talking
a
about,
break needed for it. I mean, I would just start with that. Give them a break.
yeah, give them a break. Just give them a break. And also, you have to understand that when you have a child who's not normal. Now, Shomita, I want you to take on this definition of normal. What is normal?
Okay, I mean, just yesterday I was asked by someone, like, are you okay if I call you, what was the word? Differently able. I said, personally, I'm not okay with it. But I have learned enough to understand that I have to see your intentions and not your political correctness.
Mm,
And over time, when your intentions are right, I try to probably explain that, I'm not comfortable with that word. But if somebody else is, and there are lots of people with disabilities who like that word, who want it. I'm like, to each their own. If you want it, go ahead, take it, grab it, do whatever you want with it. Don't give me that burden of having a different ability, you know. And I believe in saying it as it is. It's so difficult for the world to use that word disability.
mm,
Euphemisms all around, like abnormal, normal, supernormal, paranormal, even, I think.
mm,
But that one word, I'm like, can we just please accept it, acknowledge it? Like, just say that it's there.
mm,
It exists. Otherwise, I am so lonely in this.
mm.
If you don't tell me that it's there, then I am just so lonely, even in a room full of people, because they are either idolizing me as an inspiration, or they think I'm Divyang, which is like a part of God, which I think all of us are. I mean, if you are God loving, you would think every human being, every creation, every plant and life is a part of God.
Yes.
So how does it describe me any differently from others, when we are having to talk about that one thing, right? So also, I say, like, for example, my hand is not working. It doesn't suddenly take off from my body, does a little jig over and come back and join. That's a special ability.
Mm,
I don't have it. I don't know
mm.
anybody who does.
Yeah, I think that
So
only Ritik Roshan has in his dance moves when he's
he's doing
separating,
something.
or Prabhu Deva. Yeah, I don't know how
And
they do
even
it.
then, even then, their hands are like stuck to their body in some way.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to say that it is not. See, there are people, for example, who can paint with their mouth. Clearly, that's a very different ability.
Mm,
You want to give them that, status. You want to talk about them like that. Fair enough. But to give every person with a disability that burden to find a different ability, I think it's a little not nice. It's a lot of pressure. So that is one. The second thing is, as you said, what does the word normal even mean?
yeah.
So there's this one lady who came to me, and she really liked my designs, and she said, your designs are so nice, why don't you also design for normal people? And I'm like, please find them for me and I'll do it.
Mm,
I don't know anybody who's very normal. And if ever term anybody as normal, I think everybody else is pretty much a part of that same definition. They all belong to that group.
mm,
So the quest for finding normal continues. And I think I have written about it, I've talked about it, and I will never shy away from repeating it again. It's like our schools are the major problem, where they are talking about uniforms so much that everything is at normal. You have to have that length of the skirt and that color of the blouse, and clip your nails to this part and only then are you allowed. So that practice of normality, that practice, and I think normality for most people is nothing but obedience.
Hmm.
If you're not obedient, you're not normal. And if you're
Yeah.
a woman who's not obedient, you're kicked out.
Yeah. You're kicked out. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, I read an interview of you where you said that when, thanks to your autoimmune disorder or disease rather, you found yourself to be challenged in terms of mobility, you also realized how divisive fashion was. And you realized that, you had to homogenize it, in a sense, you had to make it more democratic, you had to
yeah.
make it inclusive. We keep hearing this term, diversity and inclusion. It's very big now in corporate
Hmm.
India. It's very, yeah, it's very woke. It's part of that whole woke corporate culture where you sponsor LGBTQ parades and you hire specially abled, or as you're saying, people with disability. I remember you told me this, people with disability in your organization. I don't know, most of the time, not all organizations, there are some very, very, fair corporates, right, who at least hire these resources for the right reason. And not because they want, like for instance, I have a big problem with parading, victims or survivors of acid attack on a ramp.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel that these designers who do that, I would like to know what they do afterwards for these women, what they do to support these communities, because they get all the glory and they get all the footage from these women wearing saris, which are probably as expensive as getting a surgery on their face. So instead of making them wear your saris and parade the ramp, do that. But at the same time, can't you sponsor the surgery of 200 women or even 20 women or even two women? Do that. Put your money where your mouth is, basically. So I just feel that I want to know more about Zionica. You said it's named after an animal, and I'm going to let you tell us about it. And also, you're a first generation fashion entrepreneur. You don't have a background in fashion. You're not Sabyasachi's sister. You're not Sanjeev Goenka's, and with all due respect to these wonderful gentlemen who make our city proud and give employment to so many people, what I'm trying to say is that you come from a very middle class family where nobody has a fashion brand. Your parents, I'm sure, were not owners of some sari shop or, some plaza or whatever,
I think they're not even owners of many of brands for their own clothing. They're like this, just go pick up
Exactly,
whatever.
exactly. So if you can just tell us about, uh, your foray into fashion and looking at it through the lens of diversity.
So it's not something I had planned at all. And my training has been in something very different. Started off as a journalist, moved on to social research, did more of policy related work.
Hmm.
But I would say that has kind of pushed me into it because Zenica has not started because I wanted to create more clothes. I
Hmm.
started because I wanted to create, you know, a space for where everybody can just feel good and happy.
Hmm.
As elusive as that sounds,
Hmm.
I didn't. For me, I cannot begin to tell you how. I don't know. It is emotionally and physically painful. Like every day you wake up, and for me it was like, oh my god, I have to change clothes again. Like
Hmm.
because it will hurt me. It will hurt my shoulders. It's going to be 15 minutes of struggle for my parents or whoever the caregiver is. So for me, it was like something that has to happen every day.
Hmm.
You cannot avoid it.
Hmm.
What then?
Yeah.
And I also started noticing. So, Pyudi, I was somebody who has grown up in her father's extremely oversized t-shirts. I don't remember buying even one t-shirt for myself because I was like, Dad, hai na, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, for somebody who's very carefree about it, very casual about it, it was affecting me back and beyond imagination.
mm.
At one end, I was like, I don't want to meet people because I don't want to look like this. I don't want
Correct.
to come in the camera because I don't want to look like this. And it was also kind of in the initial period because it's a regressive disorder, right? So
Yeah.
there was a time I could do other things, but I couldn't wear my clothes. So it was also like, oh my God, like, do I really have to bring somebody else to dress me up? It's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough. I mean, that's the least that you can say about it. So for me, it was about finding that space which is not tough. And most importantly, I thought it can be done because it is something that we are doing. I mean, we are the one who is making these clothes. It
Mm.
is not, something that's coming from the skies. And
Correct.
lo and behold, people asked me. So initially, as I said, it wasn't planned. Initially, I had actually started talking to designers, whoever I could come across, and say, why don't you anyways have it all going for you, right? So just add another few designs which are for people with disabilities and answering their challenges.
Mm.
Uh, that didn't materialize. And so, one fine day somebody told me, not in a very nice way, he was trying to like tell me that, I'm becoming too impatient about it. And he said, if you know everything, why don't you do it? That sentence did it for me. I was like, that is true. Why go ahead, waste my energy on telling people what to do? Let's just do it.
Good.
I don't know I don't know the ABCD of it, but I can learn. I mean, that's the one thing we have figured all these years. Like, one can learn, be
Mm.
open to it. So that's what I did. And I, as a part of my policy work and everything, I also did some social audits sometimes of the garment industry. So I was very aware of the kind of exploitations that go in there
Mm.
and some of the basic challenges that are there. So from the very first garment I made, I was very clear that I don't want the person making my clothes to be unhappy.
Mm.
Just the way I don't want the person who's wearing it to be unhappy, I don't want the person who's making it to be unhappy. So it has to be the full circle. So that is why I always say that Zeneca is not just about clothes.
Mm.
It's about it. It starts with and it ends with dignity.
Mm.
And everybody that is involved in it has to feel happy and dignified. I'm
Mm.
dignified selling for Zeneca. I'm dignified making for Zeneca. I'm dignified selling to Zeneca. I'm dignified wearing it as well.
Mm.
And then whatever it takes, I mean, there were times I had struggled with the price points because of, I wanted to meet certain wage marks.
Mm.
And I said, so be it. It's not like I have extremely expensive clothes. I don't, because that's also a point of inclusion. If I make such expensive clothes that most people cannot wear it, then how am I being inclusive?
Mm.
So I have tried to make sure that everyone comes to me and says, after wearing it, I got my confidence, I got my dignity, I felt happy. That's how it started. And I think slowly I'm, trying to whatever, one step at a time. What I have also realized is that eh, it was a decision where everybody said, are you sure? Like, you know nothing about fashion.
Mm.
I said, I know how it is to feel dignified.
Mm.
I know how it is to feel excluded. I know what it means to have pain. I know how I cannot wear certain clothes. And I know how it is to break some stereotypes. The whole world thinks you can't do it. Please go ahead and do it. Um, and I had a lot of people supporting me, not just my parents, but complete strangers coming up and saying, and this was a game changer for me, Beauty, because I was always thinking, okay, let's take a step one step at a time, let's figure it out. But I knew that I'm doing the right thing, and I knew that I have to continue doing it, because strangers came and said, my mother, my grandmother, my daughter, my sister. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like, it's almost like every family has a problem.
Mm.
And they may not recognize it as a disability. It's fine. I always say it's about physical challenge, it's about being who you are.
mm,
And I also say that, the fashion is so not inclusive. Forget physical challenges. Even when I had a non disabled body, I very often did not like wearing most of the stuff that was out there because it
yeah.
was made for God knows which figure. Like, who is going to wear this? Or apart from the mannequin out there, who is going to? And the number of people, very close friends, and probably even me myself in my early 20s, when I said, 3 more months and I'm going to fit into that. And for me, I think my first mantra when they say, "No, what are your business goals?"
Mm.
I do have those numbers as my goals. That is there. But there are a few other goals. One is to make sure people stop trying to fit into something else.
Yeah, people should stop trying to fit in, period. You are
Period.
you. That's it, period.
And definitely not into clothes. That's the last thing you want to fit into.
Seriously.
You want to fit into a class, you want to fit into a relationship. I don't know. Those are very deeper level of discussions here. But
I
can
can't
you
fit
please?
into anything.
Yeah, a lot of us
I'm
can't.
a
Me
basket
included.
case. Shomita, Army basket case, I have realized I was not born to fit in. But
You're
you do
not
know a
born
very
to
popular line, right? People who don't fit in are born to stand out. So we who don't fit in, we stand out. So period. Period.
In fact, there was this. I'm going to touch on this topic, and maybe we can talk about it a little later again. When somebody asked me, and this is a very common question, right? Like, this is again when I don't have a disabled body, running and dancing and martial arts types, and then he says to two of us, me, another friend of mine was there, like, both of you are so great, like so charming, and whatever. You're like, wow, how come you are still single? And I laughed it off because I was too tired to handle that. And I was like, why? I mean, that question assumes that it's a woman's responsibility to fit into that eligibility criteria.
Yeah.
So when the woman is eligible, then how come she is single? And I only smiled at him and I said, have you
You be single and how come no man has chosen you? क्या गलती है? क्या
ever?
fault
Yeah.
है?
So why are you single? So, right. So I simply said, probably because I didn't find the man. It's not about not finding the woman in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
case.
yeah, yeah.
So that struggle of constantly, and now with the disability, oh my God, the number of conversations on marriage,
Mm,
it's never ending.
correct.
So what I have very seriously decided is like, please, if I want to fit into whatever you want to fit into, at least don't fit into clothes. That's one of my goals in the business. The second goal is not only my clothes become inclusive, but in general, people start talking about inclusion.
Mm,
You start with talking about a small thing and then you see the ripple effects. So I want to see those ripple effects.
mm,
For me to see a ripple effect would be when shopping sites like Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, they have accessibility.
mm,
Not only as the site, but also in their filters.
mm,
How many of, I mean, Myntra site has filters like color, color option. God knows how many color option they will say, and you can filter it out. I have never seen a filter that says, have a shoulder problem, we have this, because
yeah,
it's not like it is not made or it is made. It's just a thinking process is not there.
yeah,
We're not
absolutely.
thinking.
Yeah,
And finally, I want to say that I want to, uh, there was a lot of question when I was incorporating my organization. So it was like, looks like an NGO. Do you want to be in? I said, no, I want to be in the market. I'm tired of people with disabilities and for disabilities being in the charity section.
mm,
I'm not saying there shouldn't be NGOs, just like a lot of issues requires NGOs. Let there be NGOs. But I'm selling clothes and I
yeah,
want to sell those clothes. I want to give my customers the dignity of being able to buy it.
yeah,
Why should you assume, and that is a big assumption, is that people with disabilities cannot afford, cannot buy, cannot do things. I'm not saying it is a myth, but I'm saying it is not as simple. It's not as straightforward. There are lots of people with disabilities who can, they are working. In fact, very often you will see they're entrepreneurs in their by their own right because organizations are not prepared to take on the accessibility issues.
Right.
So I was very sure I want a business. And at the same time, everybody kept telling me, you have worked in the NGO space in the development sector for so long that I don't think your mind works like that.
Mm.
So I just said, I'll have a feminist business.
Yeah.
Why do I have to have a new capitalist thinking? I
Mm.
will make money. Feminism is not anti money. People are not anti money. NGOs cannot run without money. All the funding that they get, a lot of it is CSR. I just have the feminist values of having equality for my workers, for my suppliers, for my customers, everywhere. That's the whole point. So I think in 5 years' time, if I can I'll be very happy. I'll be very humbled, I think, if I can manage to have an organization which runs with those feminist values and make profits and, do the right thing.
I love the way you said that you started your business, or rather you're operational from your bedroom. This will give hope to so many women, Shomita. Forget about women or people with physical disability or a mental health issue, but also to women who are housewives. We have seen this during the lockdown, that home chefs, from small kids to their mothers to their sisters, it's just exploded, right? So whatever is your skill set, and now even big technology companies, media organizations are telling people work from home. They are saving on rent. People are a little more relaxed because they don't have to beat the evening traffic, morning traffic. Hopefully partners, I mean, of course, domestic abuse has gone through the roof, but partners are also helping one another. Children are spending more time with with their parents instead of being hooked onto their homework. But of course, one more show has to be on the pressure on children, which I feel very strongly about. Seeing my sister, it's just obnoxious. But what I also want to bring up here, because you spoke about business and being a woman with a physical challenge. Apart from this constant sympathy, or this pressure to get into this normal category, whatever that might be, another thing that I want you to talk about is finances. Because a lot of times when I tell women, say I've gone to somebody's house and they have given me a beautiful, some bangle, handmade, or somebody has I get these gifts of love from women all the time, or somebody has made a homemade bar of soap, or they have given me a beautiful cake which they have baked, and I'm telling them, why don't you think of it as a business? And women don't own power. I'm going to do a total separate segment on solo entrepreneurs and business. Because like, I was talking to one of the entrepreneurs in the community, and she said, Shree, how big you make me sound to be. I have just a small entrepreneurship. I said, see, this is your problem. This is your problem. This is our problem. This is my problem. For the longest time, when people used to say that Shrimoy is a best selling author, I used to ask them to remove that word from my, any marketing collaterals that went with my name. This
Oh,
despite, yeah, I was at, like, because I didn't become Chetan Bhagat. My books didn't get into movies. I am not on the panel of Jaipur Literature Festival or APJ Lit Fest. So then I realized that, why am I externalizing my achievements instead of, today, Shomita, I have this value, I have this thing. Somebody doesn't open a door for you, knock once, knock twice, find different doors. Otherwise, damn that house and build your own house. Build a house without doors. If they don't give you something, you do it yourself. So tell us, if as a solo entrepreneur of a startup today, this is Atmanirbhar Bharat. Honorable Prime Minister is saying that start entrepreneurships, global, local, all these terms. But is it easy for a single woman with disability to start a business? on her own?
I would say it's not easy to start a business in the first place.
Hmm.
But I would also put a lot of caveats to that at this very beginning. It depends on what you want to do. So for me, it was I wanted to not have that stress. And I made sure I have other income. And a lot of entrepreneurs in the first 2, 3 years, they have other sources of income. You have to make a lot of decisions like, do you want an investor? Do you not? Do you want a bank loan? Do you not? Do you want to start with your own capital, or how much of it? A business cannot just start. And also, I am into manufacturing, right? So it's products, and it is more capital intensive. Had I been into services, it probably would have been a different kind of a story. But I would just say, whatever it is, own the story.
Yeah.
Take the decision, own the story, and because it's your story, feel free to change it the next day. There's no hard and fast rule about you having to stick to everything that you have decided. That's life, you know. So that's how I mean, I took really, I am taking, when I say I took, it sounds like it was years back, but I'm still taking them. I'm taking baby steps.
Hmm.
And I am doing the one thing which I strongly believe in. And I think that again comes from the whole feminist ideas. It's like, I'm not even thinking of competition. I'm only thinking of cooperation. And I have noticed that there are lots of really good, strong entrepreneurs out there who have the same values. Especially women entrepreneurs out there really believe in cooperation and pushing each other, and taking it to the next level.
Hmm.
Find that tribe.
Yeah,
So when
find
you
that right.
follow entrepreneur, I said this even just a few minutes back to you, right? Like, it's not just strangers coming and helping out, cooperating, figuring out those connections, strangers coming and saying, okay, let's get that deal together. Let's do it together. You cannot run a business on your own, no matter how fancy that sounds.
Hmm.
And on paper, it's me, right? But I be damned if I say that I'm just doing it on my own. I cannot. It's not possible. It's
Yeah.
not possible without the karigars that I have, the workers that are there, uh, without all the other partnerships, institutional or otherwise, mentors, people who have just said, I like your idea. And I think this is an emotional idea for a lot of people, because they've seen people in their families go through it.
Hmm.
I'm not the only one suffering here. I probably was the only one who said, be damn, let's do something about it.
Hmm.
So they said, I will help you. I'll give you the next idea. And the other thing is, it is a lot of hard work. It
Hmm.
is, I never ever understood it before. When people said it's like having your own baby. So when I started, people said it's your baby, it's your baby. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, baby. And so, though I have never been a mother, and I've seen other people, with their babies, and it's exactly that. Like, you're thinking how to make sure this stays, and you're always putting it before you.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think I've come to a stage, and I was telling this to a few people recently, the last 1 month or so. I've started realizing people ask me my name, and I have often said Zedika. And I'm like, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So, so that association, and unless you're there, probably, you have to probably find something else that makes you that happy
Right.
or that passionate. At the
Right.
same time, I also think that please don't beat yourself up to finding the passion or something like that. You don't have it, you don't have it. That's also fine. You're happy at that moment, right? As long as you are sufficiently happy, in peace, able to feed yourself, take care of things, go ahead.
Hmm. Hmm. So, I'm going to come to this because you wrote a wonderful blog that you had once shared with me about a probable partnership that fizzled out. Uh, and you wrote very, very poignantly, at the same time, very powerfully, about the effect of your disability on a probable partner and the way he saw you. I'm asking you this, Shomita, because this is a country or a nation where women, the physicality of a woman is her currency. you know. I'm asking you this because matrimonial ads still objectify women just the way, item numbers objectify us every single day. And we have teenagers and house parties grooving to Munni Badnaam and, all of that, without realizing what we are mainstreaming, really. I'm asking you this because yesterday on my show, I had Anindita Roy, who's a community member like yourself, but she's also one of India's top, plus size fashion influencers and, lingerie models. And she talked about, one of her partners, and I consider this intimate partner abuse, where he kind of just told her that, I'm so repelled by your body that I'm not physically getting a, like a hard on or an erection. I'm just not aroused because of the way you look. And women are routinely humiliated, rejected, turned down, treated with injustice and indignity just because of the way they look. Again, it's about fitting into a very male gaze led stereotype which endorses patriarchy, right? So, tell me about that moment in your life and that partner, because it's a blog I'm asking you, it's in the public domain, so we can talk
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's something that I talk about. I mean, it's not just about that one incident, or in fact, that blog had quite a few incidents, And it's funny because that blog, without saying it, was smashing the stereotype of people with disability not having a dating life.
Yeah.
I'm like, not sure of that. There is a dating life, but it's very confusing. It's very complicated. I'll start with what you said about beauty. The number of times people have told me, or even my mother for that matter, So it's not just men, there are also women, the
Mm.
aunties,
Yeah.
yeah, who would just go and tell, like, Arey, but she is so beautiful.
Beautiful.
Ha. And I'm like, contradiction? Is it like,
I
I
told
mean,
you
I
what is
personally
a
don't know
disabled
who
woman
is
supposed to look like?
yeah.
They have this vision. I told you once I was going to Bangalore, and that guy in Indigo stopped me. He said, "Are you really? Do you need a wheelchair?" I said, "Here's the doctor's certificate. I have such a huge kneecap. Why are you asking me this?" Then I called one of those, those ladies. I said, "What's the problem?" So one of the girls was very kind and friendly. She said, "You know what? You're so glamorous, na? Your hair is so nice. You're wearing such nice clothes. They can't imagine that you would need a wheelchair. We are used to seeing, people who are drooling and, very old people or, people with cerebral. So for us in our mind, when we think of handicap, we think of absolute, like nothing to, I mean, we just see the physicality of the person. So therefore, this question is relevant.
But it's not only what you see around you, it's also the media. Like I was
Yeah,
just talking, and somebody asked me about representation in media yesterday. I was like, first and foremost, most people are all about male with disabilities are shown much more in the
yeah.
media than women with disabilities.
Hmm.
And when the woman is shown, she's either somebody's choti behen, that sister thing, and wearing that stupid ribbon on her head. I want to do something, I want to burn that ribbon. I want to give her a haircut. I want her to wear a low neck plunging something. But she's not doing that. She's playing that sister, no matter how old she is.
That
But she's
victim,
also
Abala,
abla victim and that little baby.
baby.
Yeah. And that whole point of being completely desexualized.
Hmm.
It's almost like if you have a physical challenge, whatever it is, you are not supposed to have an arousal, or you're
Hmm.
not supposed to want sex. I'm not going to call sex a need because it's not. For me, it's like, water, food, air. But why are we not going to address desires? Sex is
Yeah,
not a need, it's a desire. But I want it just the way I want my Chinese food and my pizza.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that is, and then there are men who are like, oh my God, here is a woman with disabilities, and she, first and foremost, uses the word sex, like she knows how to pronounce it, right? Otherwise, it's always a hush, hush, hush. And wow, I mean, it always goes to the exotic. I mean, I was telling you this even the other day, like, it's like, Zucchini, woman with disabilities and sex. It's like the same thing. Like gone to a level of behavior. The next thing that comes is that, see, again, men are in most men, I will not generalize it. I know some very wonderful men are not used to the idea of consent.
No.
And then they're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with you. I said, ideally, whatever you should do with all women, constantly take consent. Are you okay? Is everything fine? Am I hurting? Blah, blah, blah. And if two people are doing it in that, if you don't think that you are the player and you are doing something to her, life is sorted, you know? And I feel that is also the problem. So the blog had a lot about something where we're talking about somebody want. I mean, we were talking supposed to be talking about marriage, and that kind of fizzled out. And no, I think that's the other part about marriage. I mean, this is status single. Let's talk about marriage, right? So it's everybody wants to get married. Nobody wants to do the hard work.
Mm.
And I am very clear about this that so again, a lot of people assume that I'm anti-marriage, I'm anti-men. I'm like, that would immediately cut me off from my father. I'm not doing that.
In fact, I think my father, who's watching the show and who's your father's friend, I think
Yeah.
dad has started thinking that because sometimes he tells me, you're becoming very anti-men, all. But no, I'm not, because I have
No,
you and
you're
you
not.
have
You're
others. I
not.
mean, they're such wonderful men.
I think I am constantly trying to encourage men to be
Yeah,
human.
to be human.
You know, I've noticed that, and I've noticed it hurts me. It hurts me because we don't think that these guys have the potential, right?
They have.
No,
But it's
they have,
untapped.
but in our narrative, it's like, he's such a nice guy that he doesn't even, whatever, he doesn't feel jealous if I'm with some other man. I said, that's like normal human being. He's being a normal. Can you not make a decent guy a superlative one?
Hmm. I write about this all the time. You know this. I
and
write
and I
about.
think that's where the problem is. I think we have lowered the standards for men to the point where I feel bad for them. It's
Hmm.
like we have nothing more to expect of them, and I do. I have very high expectations from whoever my partner would be,
Hmm.
including my dad. Like, there are times when my dad would just do something. I'm like, hey, hello, not cool, dude.
Not
Can
cool.
we?
Yeah, you have
Yeah,
to call out everybody. Yeah. You have
yeah,
to
yeah.
call out. Yeah.
And then, so now the thing is, they first and foremost want a marriage where they nobody wants to work. And
Hmm.
I think both men and women, if you are getting married, please marry somebody who you think that this person is worth all that hard work I'm going to do.
Hmm.
Every bit, every sweat, every blood of it. Because there will be hard work. I don't know any relationship, even non-marriage relationships, friendships, parents. I mean, every day I think, we have a huge fight over something or the other, but we work on it.
Hmm.
And we love each other to the point when we don't even think that we are working, because
Hmm. Hmm.
that's what we do. So when we are not, then they are thinking, oh my God, now I have to be with a person with disability, which is like a lot of work. I
Hmm.
want to just say, how is it your work? Like, this is a
Hmm.
caregiver's work. You may not play that role,
Hmm.
or you may play the role. So for the longest time, there were people. In fact, one of my cousins, I really like her for doing this because she was speaking without any euphemisms. She was being, very honest. But at the same time, uh, what she was saying talks about a very strong stereotype. She said, she said, like, let's face it, at least till you get better, which we don't know if you will. What are the chances of marriage? There's really no guy who's going to come up. Maybe if you find somebody, through what you call as a love marriage, at least through arranged marriage, it won't happen. And I was like, you know what? If there is nobody who cannot accept me the way I am right now, I probably wouldn't accept him if I'm better,
Yeah.
you know, because it is what it is, sickness and health.
Hmm.
And I know. very good friends of mine who are probably not as much of have severity as I do, but they have chronic conditions. They're far more independent. But they tell me, and they said, you're probably the only person we can say this to, because otherwise I feel judged even by women when you're complaining about your marriage. He doesn't care.
Hmm.
So many years of us being married and so many years of me being sick, he has not read up on my illness.
Hmm.
He has not asked the doctor the next question. It's again, it's a matter of, having your partner be with you in that journey
Yes.
and
Yes.
involved, and that
Hmm.
attention. All you want is that attention, a little bit. And that's fair. Why
Hmm.
would I marry somebody without the attention?
Absolutely, absolutely. Does aging and old age scare you? Because I know that this is a big insecurity for a lot of single women in India, which is why this community, which is why these conversations, which is why Shrimoy's dedication to the cause, that we have to break this fear in our mind, that after our parents, after our husband, when the son goes away, because there are widows in the community also, or divorced or separated women, what happens to us? Because aloneness is never celebrated in women or in culture.
In fact, you know, it's always a sugar daddy but the cougar,
Hmm.
and that culture stays. But I think what you're talking about is a more, for example, it's a sensitivity. Again, I'm going to talk about caregiver disability because they're also, the intersection is very strong.
Hmm.
There are times when people have come up to my mother and have said, "What will happen to her after you're dead?" And I am livid. I'm like, "Why are you killing my very alive and kicking mother? And
Hmm.
why are you putting that stress in her?"
Hmm.
And she's a very young mother.
Hmm.
So it's not like she's really old. And even if she was, I mean, that's not the conversation. That's very, completely insensitive.
Hmm.
And at a very early stage, for example, a lot of people, even now, they were like, "Oh, you can't get married anymore." I mean, they kind of assume. I'm like, "Oh, really? I can't." But I was just thinking of doing that. I was
Hmm.
just about to put my, ad on shadi.com or something, which I wasn't, but just to break that thought. And they were like, "Oh, you're thinking of getting married?" I said, "Yeah, it's a good time to get married." And I would always say this. I said, I feel very settled in my life right now.
Hmm.
And now that I am settled, I am happy to bring a partner in.
Hmm.
I am not waiting for this somebody to ask. So everybody's like, "When will you settle down?" I said, "I'm very settled. I'm as calm and settled as you can get at this moment."
Right.
So that conversation, what will happen? And I remember once there was someone who said, "This is why I said you should have gotten married already." So, by my mid 20s or early late 20s or something. I snapped, and with a really bright smile though, and I said, only because I didn't know there was a preventive healthcare package that comes with marriage. Otherwise, I
Yeah.
definitely would have done that. So because that theory is there, and my mother is very worried that I am, who will take care of you? I'm like, why? I have a sister. That's the first step. And then she's like, what if she gets married and she has a life? I said, we'll still remain sisters. That doesn't take away from it.
Yeah.
And then I said, what about all these? So over the years, my mother has seen the strength of some of my friendships. How people have just dropped by because they wanted me to feel better for 5 minutes. People have flown in and out only to be with me for 3 hours. So having seen that, and there again, women who probably single mothers, married women, and everything. And I think a lot of people are what I made my mom understand. And she saw a lot of my friends getting divorced and all of that. I said, mom, it is far more powerful to be alone,
Hmm.
very officially so. And it is really a wreck. I think I will be a wreck if I am lonely in a marriage.
Yeah, I'll be a wreck too. Yeah, I've been a wreck. In my relationships, I've been a wreck. So I know the feeling. I mean, I've not been married, but I've been very, very abused emotionally, abandoned emotionally, unsupported, and made to feel very like, like we're doing you a favor by being your boyfriend. My parents don't like you. My parents don't like your family. You're not even, you're clingy. You're this. You're that. You have this issue, that issue. So I think what you're saying is very true, Shomita. We've actually reached the last segment of our show. Always I say this, every episode I've been saying this. I know there are people watching every time. That whenever I do these episodes, I actually feel like spending a full day with you all, because I just feel that I want to meet you, I want to talk to you, I want to see your family, I want to go to your factory. In
Which
your
we should
case,
do. Which we should
I
do.
will, I will. But I'm just saying, for the show also, I just feel, it's a 1 hour show. It's 7 to 8 p.m. Already we are at 1 hour 25 minutes, where the time
None
flies.
of your episodes have been 1 hour. I noticed that.
They don't, because as my father says, you speak so much, so it never happens in 1 hour. But I want to ask you a question, which will be my last question to you. You said that, the two things that you've had to really struggle with or crusade against in your lifespan is gender and disability. you know that's been your crusade, that's been the cornerstone, or the seed thought from where your business has grown. It's really been, at the epicenter of your journey in so many ways, right? So tell us now, as a woman who's in her mid 30s, I don't know what cougar means. I hear this in a lot of Western serials, but actually, I don't know what is cougar. So maybe definitely, I am in some cougar category. What is it?
Post, post the call, we shall resume. Post the
Okay,
show.
it's some negative word, I'm sure, which has to
It's
do
a
with
negative word. You're showing women in a very derogatory, like going in, somebody's grasping the younger men. So that's
young.
what, if the man has a younger woman, he's a
Yeah.
sugar daddy. And
No,
again,
no.
it's a woman who is taking advantage of that older man,
Mm. Yeah,
getting
yeah.
all
We are
his
the gold
money.
diggers. We're always the gold diggers. The cougars are
Always.
always. No, I am actually, like Cher said, Cher, the singer, her mother said, you have to marry a rich man. And she said, but mama, she said it in Italian. She said, mama, I'm the rich man. So I think I want women in my community to say that to their mamas and their papas and their sisters and whoever else. We are the rich men, yeah. We are the men we wanted. So on that note, Shomita, that powerful note of empowerment and self-belief, bring these two words together for us, disability and gender, and what it means for you now, having lived this complex, beautiful, tumultuous journey.
I'll just tell you what happened yesterday. I was talking to a very close friend of mine, and she has just given birth to a baby. And we have talked about, and she's older to me, and we have talked about it a long time. And we have had a lot of conversations about, can we be mothers, can we not be mothers, should we be mothers, oh my god, if I can't be mothers, then how emotionally challenging it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I think that so when we were talking about it, we were also talking about some of the men in my life currently, not necessarily that they are there, but also just people showing interest. And I was just telling her, the number of times I hear people say that, "Oh, I've never felt like this before," or "You're just so different." I can open my heart to you, and I talk to you so much. I don't never talk to anybody else. And in my head, I'm like, who have you guys been talking to all your life? Like, and so she pointed that out, and she said, how you are so different from all of them, but can they at least one of them be a little different? And I think the reason they find me different is simple. I am very honest. I don't mince words, and I stand my ground when I speak to them. So if I don't know something, which is fine, that's not a problem. But I do know politics. I do know economics. I do
Yeah.
follow the budget. I do know, what are trade relations. And suddenly that becomes a very so I mean, my mother, for example, I mean, why talk about me? She is pro at share markets,
Hmm.
and I have people say, auntie, share markets. And I'm like, yeah, and my dad has no idea of it. My dad tells my mom, like, by the way, somebody was asking and I have no idea, you do, so you give some whatever opinion.
Yeah,
This change of gender role in my house, where the share market is a discussion by the woman in the family and the man has nothing to say here, that makes me who I am.
yeah.
And suddenly, the same woman who can't walk, and this has happened. I mean, I think just before I was telling you, like the hair, right? I used to have very long hair till last evening,
Okay.
all the way down to my hips.
Okay.
The number of people who have told me very innocently, "Oh, you must cut your hair. It will be easier for you." I'm like, "It's my hair. Can you stop giving opinion?" Or they have told me that, never, oh, please don't touch your hair. You look so beautiful. Da, 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 da." I'm like, to what? To a certain extent, that's fine, but beyond a point, only friends are allowed to say that, you know.
Hmm.
And I'm tired of people also saying, "Oh my God, you look so beautiful. Have you lost weight? Have you gained weight?" I'm like, can we talk about my beauty without the weight
Something
around?
else. Yeah. Move on.
Come
Next.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're seeing this part of me where I'm like, my hair, I choose. Everything that I have said, I there have been caregivers, which is like, we have attendants, and they have come and they have probably left in 48 hours because, and they have said it like, my God, she can't move a finger, but she will want things exactly the way she wants it. I said, that's the whole point of a helper. You're helping me. You're helping me not just to breathe and survive, you're helping me to have a life. And I refuse to take a breath without that life. So when people see that there's a woman who is suddenly thinking of a life that has no relationship with any of the gender stereotypes that are around, which has, and then she has a disability, she, it has happened. I cannot eat on my own, so somebody's feeding me, and I said, I want the bite in that order. Like, I want this way to have that bite, and they're like, I said, because I'm the one eating. Eating is not a clinical act. I have to feel happy and satisfied, and if possible, have an orgasm through that bite. So, having that strong opinion, I think that is something both women and people with disabilities, not a women with disabilities, but people with disabilities,
People.
are denied constantly. They're constantly denied the space to have an opinion, stand their ground, and be themselves.
Hmm.
That's where it comes together. And for me, obviously, so if you have a disability, it's bad enough. If you're a woman on top of that, it's like, why do you have an opinion? Because I'm alive.
Hmm. Yeah. These are powerful words, Shomita. Without my breath, I am nothing. I have an opinion because I'm alive. I want to eat food that gives me an orgasm. Very important. Orgasms chalte rahe, and very, very important, no matter how you're getting them. But the point is that I want to say this out loud that, and I'm going to say it again, that it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community of warriors, and this includes brothers, fathers, uncles, neighbors, work bosses, colleagues, of course, sisters, mothers, aunts, grandmothers, to make a single woman feel that her life is much bigger than any label that may have been prefixed on her by society, you know, and that she can smash every stereotype. She can build any business from wherever the hell it is, from her toilet seat, from her kitchen, from her bedroom, on a wheelchair, on a pair of crutches, probably with a little help from someone, like they say, a sister, a caregiver, a mother, but also where people with disability go, where single women with disability go. This is a show on single women, so I keep harping on that word. Let us also salute, let us also recognize the silent caregiving that happens in most Indian homes. Let us also be kind to the mothers. Let us not pass snide remarks that, oh, you produced a Vikalang bacha, you know. Let us not tell women that how can we get married to you, all your life you'll have to look after your physically challenged older sister, younger sister, mother, right? Let us not look at a woman and say that, oh, like, what should I do with you? Everything that you do with another human being, which is being decent, which is being respectful, which is being honest, and most importantly, which is being kind, which I put at number one. Are you kind?
Yeah.
Number one is kindness, nothing else matters. So I think
And I
you,
think once you're kind, you're good at everything. You're a
yeah.
good father, you're a good mother, you're a good boss, you're good at everything.
Yes, you're a good everything. Shomita, you give me so much of courage. In fact, at the beginning, when we were just setting up and I saw your dad setting up your laptop and fixing it for you, and, I could see your sister, this is my family, Shomita. Geru will run and get a printout for me. My dad is making my invoice. My mother, poor thing, she doesn't understand much, but she's loyally watching my shows. It takes a village to make women like us. And it starts with the village that raised us. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
And salute to them for, giving us the space
Salute
to be
them.
who we are.
Salute them. Salute them. Also, we have to understand we are adult women who live with aging parents. So it's a dynamic on both sides. They have to adjust. We also are having to adjust. It's emotional labor for them. It's, constantly having to adapt to new ways of thinking. And for us, it's constantly telling ourselves, don't get irritated, don't get agitated, be patient, adjust. So it's like an ecosystem. And in India, women stay home much longer, or children stay home much longer. We come back home to our parents' house, and let us create these safe spaces within our homes. Let single women never feel that my home is a prison, that my home
Yeah.
is where I feel really, put down, stereotyped, treated like shit. No. Discriminated with a brother. No. Let us
Beauty, if
try.
I can just add this part because it's going around the country a lot these days thanks to the farmer protest, when they said something like ghar ki baat, let
Hmm.
there never be like a ghar ki baat. If something is troubling, and that is why the community is, there's no trouble and no violence that can be ghar ki baat. Let it be spoken aloud and let people come and help.
Yeah.
Nothing can be under the sacredness of ghar if the home is not kind,
Absolutely. Not kind, not safe, not
not safe.
equal, and not egalitarian and respectful. So, Shomita, thank you. We have to meet in person because we are in the same pada, like I said at the beginning of the show. And hopefully, in happier times, soon, inshallah,
Soon.
like say soon, we should meet. The two fathers should meet and have a drink. It should be a family get together, not just you and
Lots of
me
fun
having
and
a good
food.
time. Yes, food and fun, which brings on the orgasms, in your words. Yeah. So, thank you. And thank you for being a guest on Stay to Single with Shree Season 2, the hashtag Not So Unlucky series. Tomorrow, we are back at exactly the same time, 7 p.m., with my last guest for this season before we ring in Valentine's Day, Sina Tadke, that, we are happy, we are complete, we are kick ass, and we are powerful as single women in India. So tomorrow I have Gail Johnson joining me from the UK. Gail's story is phenomenal, and she talks about something which needs to be spoken about more amongst women, and women who have had the courage to walk out of abusive, violent, physically and mentally very, very difficult marriages with a child. So, tomorrow we talk about domestic violence. We also talk about, as Shomita said, our homes being safe spaces because Gail went through a difficult childhood, on those fronts. And we talk about single motherhood. It's also February. February is my mother's birthday in a week from now, and she turned 71 by God's grace. And I was raised by a lioness of a single mother. So I feel so wonderful that I began my show with a single mother, and I'm ending with a single mother tomorrow. So thank you, Shomita. Thank you to everybody for
Thanks a
watching.
lot.
Thank you to Gaurav for being our back-end support and friend of the community. We need more men to support us and walk along with us and empower us. Single men, married men, fathers, brothers, bring them on. Thank you, Shomita, and I'll see you all tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Lovely being here. Bye bye.